following is a presentation of the Fellowship Church at Anthem, a community of faith, love, and hope. For more information, please visit fellowshipanthem.com.
Thank you, guys. What a great song about God's presence in our lives. It struck me last week, I was having a couple of conversations with people about Kairos moments. Those are the moments of our life when the chronos of our life, the time, seems to be intersected by the divine. It's where God steps in and makes his presence known in our lives. And through some conversations and just my own sort of like self-reflection, self-conversation, I realized that there may be some of us who just don't really even know or believe that God intersects our lives, that he doesn't, like come close to us and is not intimately involved in the details of our lives. And you might be one of those people that are just like, I don't know if I've ever seen God this close. I don't know that he, hangs out with me. There could be a lot of reasons why you believe that. You might just believe it simply because you don't think you're worthy of hanging out with by God. And I can understand that. I think the church has done a marvelous job of making people feel really guilty about their lives, and that God doesn't really like you, just sort of puts up with you. And hopefully we're doing some things to correct that and revise that. But when I talk about God stepping in to the moments and bringing together pieces and parts to create a larger version of life, you might be looking at it and saying, I don't know if I've ever seen God do that in my life. I just don't know that he works that way. He might work that way in your life, Ted, because you're a pastor and you have some special hookup with God and whatever, which is completely untrue. But you might actually be doubting the fact that God would intervene in your behalf to cause good things to happen for you, to help you, that he would love you, that he would serve you, that he would empower your life. So it got me thinking a little bit about that this week, and so I want to talk to you today about dreams. And what is your dream for your life? And I want to do it out of this context of Kairos moments. I want to tell you a story today that happened to me several years ago that is one of those ultimate moments, those ultimate Kairos moments where God intersected my chronos. My time was intersected by God moment. Some of you know this story, and it's just such a poignant, to me, reminder of the fact that God is intimately involved in the details of our life. But if this story is new to you, hopefully it illustrates the fact that God works in our lives in extraordinary ways. I was invited to be a part of a conversation of pastors from all across the United States, and we were going to be meeting in the Bahamas. One of our friends, at that time soon-to-be friends, was a pastor there, and so he invited about a dozen of us to come together for a conversation. And it was a dozen similar pastors from similar churches, so pastors like me from churches like Fellowship, a little bit different, a little off the grid, a little non-traditional, all that. And so when the invitation list was published, most of the 12 of us didn't know each other. We didn't really know the other guys that had been invited into the conversation, but all of us kind of knew one or two people, and we were coming together, being hosted by our soon-to-be friend in the Bahamas, Clint. And so, I don't know if you recognize this or not, but pastors are fairly competitive too, against each other at times. And so when you get invited to be a part of a conversation or you get invited to go and speak somewhere, one of the first things you do is look to see who else is invited or speaking, and then check them out, right? Because you got to be able to load the conversation you're getting ready to have, right? It's like, this guy, he's talking about this, and his church is doing this, and I got to be able to tell about my church doing this, and whatever. And so I did my research on all the other guys that were invited to this conversation. And one of them was a guy named Rick, who is a pastor in Seattle, or Portland. And so I did my research on Rick and his church there, and all of the 12 of us had started our own churches. So we all had similar backgrounds. We all had sort of that entrepreneurial drive and all that. And so when I did my research on Rick, as I did with a couple other pastors, I liked his style. I liked his teaching. You can go online sometimes and hear other pastors teaching. So I downloaded a couple of his sermons onto my iPod. And I was riding my bike through Anthem, and I would listen to Rick, and he's a good teacher, really good teacher. And I thought, man, I really resonate with this guy. I can't wait to have a conversation with him in real life because we obviously, we're connected at some level. And so I did that with several of the other guys, and I was like, this is going to be an awesome dialogue and a really great conversation. So time came for me to leave, and so I get on my plane headed to the Bahamas, and my plane stops in Atlanta. And I'm sitting there connecting in Atlanta, and I'm in the boarding area just waiting for the next flight. And while I'm sitting there, I'm reading a book and just, sort of taking in the environment, not really paying a lot of attention. And all of a sudden, I hear Pastor Rick's voice in the boarding area. And I was like, that sounds really familiar. And so I start trying to think, and I'm like, where do I know that voice? And I'm like, oh, he's been in my head while I've been riding my bicycle for the last month. That's Pastor Rick. So I see him over there, and now I'm trying to think about how do I go up and introduce myself to him without giving away the fact that I've been spying on him for a month. So I'm trying to think about it, and I'm just like, I don't know. I don't want to completely give it up. And about that time, they call for the first boarding group, and I'm like, all right, well, I'll wait till we get on the plane, and then I'll approach him and, have a conversation with him or something. So we get on the plane, and I get in my seat. Rick's still out there, and I'm like, I'm going to see where he sits, and then sometime in the flight after we take off, I'm going to go up and talk to him. And so as I'm sitting in my seat, I see him come on the plane. He's a big guy. I mean, he's, sort of a tank. And so he comes on the plane, and he's, you can't miss him, and he's, trudging down the aisle, and, I'm sitting about a little past halfway back on the plane, and I'm like, he's coming my direction. He hadn't stopped yet, and I'm like, well, he's going on back behind me. He comes, and I'm sitting right on the aisle. He comes, and he sits in a seat right across the aisle from me. How does this happen, right? This is what I'm thinking to myself. Who does this? I booked my ticket. He booked his ticket. Separate times, separate days, separate lives. All of a sudden, the guy I've been spying on, and I'm under no illusion. He's been spying on me too, I know it. Right? So we're sitting right across the aisle from each other. Well, now it's interesting, right? Because I'm like, how am I going to break the news to this guy? And so we take off, and we're up in the air, and finally the ding-dongs, and it's past 10,000 feet, and I'm like, I'm going to get my iPod out, and I'm going to start listening to it. And so then I pull up one of Rick's sermons on my iPod, and I think, I'm going to invite him to listen to himself. So, we're flying along, and he's got his paper and pencil, and he's writing some notes out, and I tap him on the shoulder, and I pull the earbud out. I'm like, dude, you got to hear this. And he's looking at me, I don't know what kind of germs you have in your ear. I'm not... He's like, no, I'm okay. And I'm like, no, seriously, you absolutely, you have to listen to this. This is going to be crazy. So he plugs it in. I hit play. As he's listening to himself, he recognizes immediately to himself. He yanks it out of his ear, and he goes, who are you? We have a great conversation, and have a great couple days together, and it was the beginning of a good friendship, and we ended up being able to partner with their church on a couple projects, and it was just a great thing. But when I look at moments like that, and maybe you're a skeptic, maybe you look at a moment like that and you go, that's just pure coincidence. That's pure happenstance. That's pure randomness. I look at that and I go, there is a God who orchestrates events in our lives. And if he's orchestrating them in my life, he has the capacity to orchestrate them in your lives. And sometimes in his orchestration of the events of our lives, he wants our lives to cross paths. And sometimes we get to know the reason, and sometimes we don't. Sometimes we walk away from those moments and we go, wow, I wonder what that was about. And then other times it's just blatantly obvious. And if you've never had one of those moments in your life, I believe it's only because you haven't recognized it. Because I believe God has slung the universe together in front of you in a way that is so undeniable that you know He's at work in your life. And if you haven't recognized it, it's only because you don't have a lens to see it yet. Or you're just a skeptic and you just keep discounting it as being happenstance or randomness or coincidence. But I believe all of those things that we would normally pass off as coincidence or happenstance or chance or serendipity, I believe those are God-ordained moments in our lives for some larger story that is unfolding. And if we can teach ourselves to see those moments and then listen to our own spirit and His Spirit alive inside of us, then we can gain the capacity in those moments to actually step deeper into them and participate with whatever it is God's doing. So I want to talk to you today a little bit about dreams, and I'm going to have to talk really fast, and you're going to have to take a lot of notes really quickly if you want to follow along. But I just want to give you some things today about dreams, because I believe that one of the things that God does in our lives at times is He puts things in our heart or in our mind, a dream or a vision or an idea, and then He goes to work behind the scenes to empower and resource that dream or that vision. And if I'm paying attention, I get to participate in the process of it. And if I'm not, I totally miss it. And I think in large part, particularly in a lot of suburban lives today, we are so comatose to the larger story that God is calling us up to. We have oriented our lives just around comfort and security and safety and a sense of predictability and all of that. And the opportunity to live a larger life and a larger story, it's right there, but we can't access it because we can't see what God is doing, or we don't believe that He works like that, or we've never really been able to connect the dots in our lives to go, oh, that's how God works. Or maybe we have another script running through our head, and that script is the script of a small story. You've been told by somebody in your life, this is all your potential. You don't have any more potential. This is all you can do. Don't try. Don't risk. Or you shouldn't do that. You're not designed for that. You're not made for that. You're this. And that script runs through our head, and sometimes those moments when a dream tries to bubble to the surface, it's squished down by those bad scripts that run through our head. When I started having this conversation this week about dreams, and I made a decision to talk about dreams today, I really honestly I was not aware of the significance of the week in terms of Martin Luther King Jr. and the anniversary of his I Have a Dream speech and all of that, and its impact in our country. I wasn't really cognizant of that, but when you think about a man or a woman stepping into a vision, a dream, and living out that dream. I mean, my whole life, growing up in versions of suburban middle-class life, we have something we call the American dream. And it's to buy a house and to live in a house and live comfortably and live at a lifestyle that reflects opportunity, and that's the American dream. But one of the things that I notice as I deal with people that have lived some version of that dream for a while is they begin to tire of the confines of that dream. That dream becomes too small. They achieve it. They get the house, and then they get the car, and another car, and then they get a kid, and then another kid, and sometimes another kid. And they get the pool, and they get whatever it is that's a part of that American dream. And at some point, that dream becomes too small. It doesn't fulfill the deeper issues of our heart. And so then sometimes we spin off into all kinds of crazy directions of life looking for something bigger. And it's right there all the time. It's God's dream planted deeply inside of our heart. But until I come to the place where I realize that God is actually building a dream inside of me for something larger than what I currently live, I won't even step out. I don't even know how. I can't even imagine it. Can't even see it. In Amos chapter 3, this is an Old Testament passage. God's speaking, and he says, the sovereign Lord never does anything until he reveals his plans to his servants, the prophets. So there's always this connection point between God and his plans and his heart and his dreams and the dreams of mankind. And he's perfectly willing to reveal to us his secrets and his plans and his ideas and his dreams. I just find myself at times not always able to be open to them. So I want to ask you a question today. How big can you dream? For your life. For your life. As parents, we get good at dreaming big dreams for our kids, but what about your life? How big of a dream can you dream for your life? I'm going to give you a couple things today about dreams that I think are integral to us being able to latch hold of those dreams and then engage them and live in them and see them come to reality, to see them move from a picture in our head to a point of reality in our life. So let me give you a couple things today. First of all, dare to dream something big for your life. It requires that. It requires courage. There's a point at which imagining something in my life that's larger than what is means that I have to look ahead and see something that doesn't yet exist. And all around us, we're at times receive pressure not to dream. It's like, don't you dare dream something big for your life. It's almost as if don't be audacious enough to dream something different. Listen, what you have, it's enough. It's more than enough. You're good. So just hang out. Don't get carried away. But when you think back to your childhood, that's the time when we dream, right? I remember as a kid, I was quite confident that if I wasn't already Superman, I would be one day. I was confident of it, you know. I mean, he was my superhero. I read him in the comic books. He was awesome. Made my first cape when I was 3. Had Mama sew an S on it. Jumped off of everything that had any elevation to it whatsoever. Several times flew through the air, I'm sure long distances. I was doing everything to try to take on the persona of this Superman, because that's who I wanted to be. He was my big dream. And you know what happens to us sometimes as we go through life, those dreams get squished down, don't they? I mean, if you talk to a kid and you go, hey, what do you want to be when you grow up? They'll rattle something off, and sometimes we pat them on the head and go, oh, good luck with that. And then over the time of our life, if we get enough of those pats on the head, good luck with that. Our dream gets squished down into the point where we actually believe the naysayers, and our dream sort of crumbles and it gets squished and it dies. Sometimes our dreams, they get squished because we get wounded. Dreaming requires daring something audacious. It requires putting yourself out there, being vulnerable. So, how big is your dream today? Look at this passage of Scripture. This is a reference from Acts. It's also a quote from an Old Testament passage. God says, in the last days, I'm going to send my Spirit on all men. And he would just mean all mankind. Then your sons and daughters will speak God's word. There's going to be truth coming out of our mouths. Your young men will see what God has given them to see. In other words, your young men will see visions, and your old men will dream dreams. Sometimes our pursuit through life, we sort of get channeled into this very narrow place where we just don't dream dreams anymore. Maybe you find yourself there. You just don't dream dreams anymore. I had a dream one time of moving to a desert and starting a church and building the church and seeing people come and connect to God and connect to each other. That was a dream of mine, and you're in it. You're living in my dream. Welcome to my head. And that dream came true in many respects, and many pieces of it that I saw 13 years ago they're now here. They're real. So it involves being daring. It involves being willing to take a risk. It involves being vulnerable. And if we pursue safety and comfort, we will not step out and dare to dream a big dream for our lives. Here's the second piece. If you're going to dare to dream something big, you have to make it crystal clear. You have to make it crystal clear. There has to be great clarity attached to your dream. You cannot reach a goal that you don't have. And you can't even form a goal that you can't see. So if you're going to dream some big dream for your life, you got to be able to dream it with clarity. Oftentimes when God would give people dreams and visions for a future, it was a picture of a reality that didn't exist today. But the picture was often crystal clear. He went to this guy named Noah and he said, "Hey, I'm gonna ask you to do something that seems absurd. I want you to build a boat." Noah's like, well, I don't even know what a boat is. B, why would I build a boat? There's not water here for miles and miles and miles around, God. Seriously? And God's like, yeah, I know it's going to seem absurd. It's a big dream, but it's so big. I'm not just going to ask you to build a boat. I want you to build a cruise ship. And we are going to have the first ever love boat. And it's going to be a little bit odd because our first customers on the love boat are pretty much you, your family, and all the animals. All the people, we're going to have to hit the reset button there. But all those animals, we need the animals. Can you imagine that? And then God says, and here's the deal. I want you to build a boat out of this particular wood. I want you to build it this size, this shape, this structure, put this many rooms inside of it. And once it's done, the rains are going to come and then you'll have a place to drive your boat around. I got to think there are times at which Noah was like, that is whack. I'm not doing that. Can you imagine it? He starts building a boat and then people will start coming by. No, what are you doing? Building a boat. What? Boat. Did you say barn? Never mind. And then they would just come by. And then they would come by and watch. It's like free entertainment. Say, hey, let's go watch Crazy Noah. He's building a cruise liner for aminals. But that was God's dream. So it's got to be crystal clear. So whatever dream you have in your head, I would encourage you to make it crystal clear. I think sometimes it's helpful to visualize it. Sometimes it's helpful to take images and put them up on a board or put them on your computer or write them down somewhere. Be specific about what your dream looks like. God deals in specifics, and he's not afraid to allow the dream that he puts inside of your head and inside of your heart to be crystal clear. All right, here's the third thing. Number 3, beware of the dream killers. Beware of the dream killers. If you're going to be audacious enough to actually dream a dream for your life that's big, that's not a small story, there will be people who will come along and try to kill the dream. Here's a couple dream killers you got to watch out for, okay? Beware of the non-dreamers and the GHF party poopers. That's the glass half full party poopers. They are everywhere. They're everywhere. And they're sort of covert. They're incognito. They only come out when your dream comes out. You put your dream out there and you go, you know what I'm thinking about doing? I'm thinking about doing this. I got a little dream in mind. And all of a sudden, that otherwise really happy, smiley person, they take whatever's left in their glass that's half full, and they pour it right on your dream. Because their whole mission is to poop your party. That's what they live for. They love it. Here's a dream. Let's try to crush it. And one of the reasons is because they're non-dreamers. They don't have a dream for their life. They don't have some compelling force behind what it is that's driving them every day when they wake up. And so they feel like it's their job to make sure that you don't either. Because if your dream gets out and it becomes real, it makes their dreamless life look really, really bad. So their ambition in life is to make sure that you don't dream. Or if you do dream, we kill it quick before it changes the world for good. So beware. They're everywhere. Sometimes they're close to us. They might even be our friends. They might even be our family. So you got to be careful who you throw your dream out to. Here's another dream killer, stress. Man, stress can kill the dream. You're dreaming a dream and you're like, man, this is going to be so awesome. When this comes true, this is going to be amazing. This is going to change the world. And I'm so excited about that. And all of a sudden, some crisis moment occurs in your life and it sucks all the wind out of your dream. And you're like, what was I thinking? It's crazy. The stressful moments in our life have the capacity to derail our dreams really, really quickly. And they happen, you can't predict that they're coming, right? You don't know they're coming. They're sneaky. This morning, I woke up and getting ready for church, and I went out to went to leave, and we have multiple adult drivers in our family now. So thanks to the HOA, we have to play musical cars every day whenever any of us leaves, and so I go out and Beth's car is behind my car. And so I get in her car, and I've got my computer, and I got my breakfast shake, and I realize I'm juggling way too much here. I'm going to spill this shake on my pink shirt, and then I'm going to have to tell a story about it, and I'm just not going to do it. So I went back to my car to put all the stuff in, and I put her keys inside her car, closed the door, walked back to my car, put my stuff inside my car, went back to her car, and the door had inadvertently locked itself with the keys inside. And these are the moments where on the way to church, you start going, okay, God, working out a little thing here with me? I mean, what's going on? You testing me? Huh? Testing me? So I go back inside, and I think, all right, well, I'm gonna take Peg's van to church. It's on its last leg. It's about to die, and so we have a rental car right now because we're trying to get rid of this van and get a car. And so I'm like, so I move Peg's rental car out. It's on the street now. I get in the van, start the van, battery's dead. Curse word. You fill in the blank, whatever you want to use. Okay? Battery's dead. I'm like, all right, jeez. All right, so I'm like, I'm going to go back in the house, and I'm going to get Brock's car. I'm going to drive Brock's car to church because I don't think he has to work till a little later, and then he can, by that time, AAA will be here. They'll get the keys out. Beth can have her car. She can drop him off at the church to pick up his car. Life will be better. So I go in there, wake him up. Son, I need your key to your car. He's like, what time is it? I'm like, it's like 8:30. And he's like, I got to go to work. I'm like, of course. Another curse word. Different one. Okay? So I'm like, yep, go to work. No problem. So I go back outside, and I'm like, I'm just going to jump the van. So I get the jumper cables out. Thank God they're 30 feet long, because my car battery's on this side of my car. The van battery's on this side of the van. Stretch the thing out. It's not long enough, so I have to put my mouth down on it to complete the circuit. Just kidding. So stretch it out, get enough juice, fire up the van, wrap up the cords, call AAA, head down to Starbucks to get my Starbucks, leave the van running in the parking lot so that the battery will charge up so that it'll start when I leave today, right? Come back outside after getting my coffee, still at this time relatively calm. And the van's gone. No, just kidding. Makes a better story though, right? I come out, get in the van, there's this, there's a beeping noise going, beep, 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 beep. I'm like, what? I look, the temperature gauge is all the way up past H. I mean, it went past H. It's overheating. I'm overheating. And at that point, I'm like, you know what? I'm not dreaming anymore. Done with dreaming. It's too stressful. Stress can be a dream killer because it sucks the energy out of us, right? It's unbelievably distracting. It could take all the creative energy that we'd be pouring into our dream, all the belief energy that we need to make our dream come true, all the faith, all sucked away in a moment of stress when we throw up our hands and go, God, are you serious? Are you serious? And oftentimes, it's how we handle the stressful moments that give us the character and the capacity to actually make the dream come to life. All the car stuff this morning could have easily left me sitting in my office back there this morning saying, Doug, please handle it. They won't know the difference. Most people think you're me anyway. All right, so stress can kill the dream. Here's the next piece that can kill the dream. Sometimes broken dreams can kill a future dream. There have been places and times in my life where, because dreams got broken, I wasn't really willing or able to dream again. Ever been like that? Where you had a dream that was so big and you lived and you breathed that dream and all of a sudden it came true, but then crack! Something in that dream broke. And then all of the risk-taking, daring, audaciousness in us that it takes to make a dream come true shrinks back into our little shell, and it's like, that dreaming stuff, it's too dangerous. I'm not doing that again. That hurts when it breaks. Not doing it. Broken dreams can be dream killers too. I believe it takes a lot to work through a broken dream and get to a place where we can dream again. But if you do, then the new dream that you dream can be 10 times bigger, 10 times more audacious, and 10 times more impactful to the world that you're getting ready to deliver it to. I love hearing the stories of women and men who dreamed a big dream, and it started out of the gates, and it was massive, and it was big, and it was shifting the world, and all of a sudden, someone punched a hole right in their dream, and all the air went out. But that moment, that defining moment when they did not give up, became the next big dream that they threw out into the world, and it shifted everything. Don't let broken dreams steal your next big dream. And then here's another dream killer. This might surprise you, but sometimes fulfilled dreams can steal your dreams. They can be dream killers. You dream a big dream, you accomplish that dream, and then you just sort of kick back and go, you know what? I'm pretty well done. I don't think God ever parks us. I don't think he ever puts us on the bench and says, you know what? Done with you. Like he's always willing to use not only our fulfilled dreams, but our broken dreams and our broken lives and our failures and our successes. He wants to use all of that to accomplish the next big thing in your life and in his kingdom. So beware the dream killers. Here's number 4. Build your own dream team. Build your own dream team. By that I mean put around yourself a group of people that are willing to support, encourage your dream in you. Now you do have to be cautious about this because there are dream killers out there, right? But you're going to need some help along the way. There's going to be some days when the fulfillment of your dream won't seem possible, and you need somebody to remind you, you know what? You can do this. This is your destiny. Sometimes you need somebody on your dream team that'll sort of kick you in the backside and go, you know what? Get busy. Take a step. Make something happen. Get it out there. So get a group of people. Maybe it's just 2 or 3. Maybe it's only one person. You sit down with and you go, you know what? I've got a really big dream, and it's taken a lot for me to actually be able to talk about it publicly, but I need a dream team. I need somebody on my side that will support me in the accomplishment of this goal in my life. And I think you're the right person. And all I really need for you to do is just encourage me when I'm down and hold me accountable when I'm not working on it. And just be there with me to encourage this process. Will you be that person? Look at this passage of Scripture. I love this from Hebrews. The Bible says, let us think of ways to motivate one another. I love doing that for people. I love looking at their life, trying to move forward, moments of growth, opportunity for a dream. And I love coming alongside and trying to encourage that and motivate that in them. Let us think of ways to motivate one another to acts of love and to good works. I love doing that for people. Stepping into their life at the right moment and just saying, hey, that thing that you're thinking that you can't do, I guarantee you can. That thing that feels too big for you, it's not. It's not. I see your potential, so does God. That thing that you think you can't afford and that you don't have resources for and you don't have the right people connections for, God's got all that handled. You just got to take the next step. Take the next step. Take it. That's part of our role in life. And if you're a glass half full person, this is going to seem like a daunting task just to be. And maybe this is the way God starts bringing life to your own dream. Is he allows you to be a motivator for somebody else. So stop killing people's dreams and start motivating people's dreams. I've lost track of my numbers. Here's the next one. Number 5, step towards your dream with action. Step towards your dream with action. We probably all know people that talk about what they're going to do someday. I'm going to do that one day. When I get some time, I'm going to make that happen. When I save up enough, I'm going to really stand back. What happens if you dream a big dream and today, without the clear vision for tomorrow, without enough funding, without the people connections, without enough knowledge, you take a step in that direction. Just step out in that direction with intention. It takes a lot of action directed with intention to bring a dream in reality. So step towards it with action. I love this quote. If there is no opportunity to fail, then there really is no opportunity to succeed. It's very true, isn't it? And the opportunity to succeed is laced with all kinds of need for action. All right? Here's the next one. Build a fire under your faith. Build a fire under your faith. The Bible talks a lot about faith and women and men that accomplish great things because of their faith. And if you go after an audacious dream and you build that big dream in your mind and then you start taking steps towards it, I promise you there's going to be some days when your faith is going to fail. You're going to doubt. You're going to be like, I don't know if this is going to happen or not. Those are the days you got to build a little fire under it. Maybe you have to call your team and go, you know what, I'm doubting today. Remind me what I told you 2 months ago about this dream in my life. Maybe you have to seek some encouragement from God. God, help me out here. I'm doubting a little bit. Listen, sometimes I think in the church we deny the reality that doubt is a part of the process of faith. If there are not moments when we doubt, then faith isn't real. Faith is not faith. It's just reason and confidence at that point. But the moments when I doubt, the moments when I'm like, God, I don't know if this is going to happen or not. God, can this really happen? God, this obstacle seems so big. Is this really, am I going to make it through this obstacle? Those are the moments where God steps in and he adds fuel to the fire of faith inside of us that allows us to go forward. So that what's in our mind in that picture becomes the reality that we're living in. So build a little fire under your faith. Here's the next piece. Finally, be tenaciously flexible. Be tenaciously flexible. You're like, Ted, that doesn't make sense. I know. It's awesome. Because I'm the guy that for most of my life was tenaciously not flexible. Got a dream, you got a goal, you go after it. Even if there are people in the way, doesn't matter. What matters is the dream, the goal. So feel free to knock people down getting to the goal. Played a little football in high school. I loved the forearm shiver. Right? Just knock people out of the way. Got a goal. But people get bruised. Relationships get bruised. Hearts get bruised for you going for the goal. So what has to happen is we have to be tenacious to go for the goal, but every now and then we have to bob and weave a little bit. We have to be flexible. Because the dream that I have in my mind, when I throw it out to God and he starts working with me to create it, he may bring it back to me with a little different picture, a little nuance to it than what I had originally thought. And I got to be flexible. Otherwise, my rigidity and my resistance against God's plan intersecting with my plan is going to create a lot of friction. And I have found in my life that when I'm creating friction against God, he tends to win. So be tenacious with your dream. Go for it. Don't let anybody talk you out of it. But be flexible. Because God may want to tweak it along the way. And what I've come to know in my life is that whenever God tweaks my dreams and my plans, he's always tweaking them for the better. He's always taking what I think is the optimum and making it better. Can't always see it in the moment. That's where faith becomes critical. So, how big can you dream?